We're very happy to have you here. We've grown every time we've done this. We'd especially like to thank Three Sheeps Brewing for hosting us. Great beer. Thank you, James. Excellent. We're going to take a break after 4 of our talks so that you have time to grab another brew. We have 7 wonderful speakers here tonight. There's also a sign-up sheet over this way. There's a donation bucket over there. I think we have a total of $35 so far over 4 weeks, so we're trying to get that to 40 tonight. That would be great. So thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone on the committee that's going to help host this. If you are interested, talk to any one of the committee members as the evening goes on. If the committee members can just raise their hand and let us know where you are, and we'll be happy to get you signed up to speak. Our first story tonight is about a busy mom of 2 who tells us how a hole in her stomach drove her to become an advocate for school recess. Please welcome Angie Hullen.
All right, I know you're all thinking, oh, look at that adorable baby. So my story starts with him when he was born in 2009. I had the same normal worries that every parent has about whether he was getting enough to eat, whether he was warm or cold. I didn't really think that I'd have to worry much about myself, but I developed a condition called diastasis recti while pregnant with him, and while it usually resolves on its own in mothers who develop it, it did not resolve in my case. I had a hole in my stomach that was so big I could fit my whole hand in it. And it was about as comfortable as it looks, you can imagine. So I was determined to get to a point where I could parent my 2 little boys in a way that I could be comfortable and functional. So I started physical therapy. I did my exercises diligently. It really didn't do anything. We tried taping my stomach together, literally. It didn't help. So I did end up getting surgery. I wanted to be comfortable and functional, and the surgery did help me reach that point. But even after the surgery, I still had this question: why did it happen to me, right? Why was it so severe in my case? And I researched a lot. The internet was my friend. And I found the answer eventually in this unlikely book, which is called Every Woman's Guide to Foot Pain Relief by Katie Bowman. It doesn't seem like it's related, right? I didn't have foot pain. I had a hole in my stomach. But the foot bone's connected to the knee bone and so forth. You guys get it. Everything that we do in our modern environment contributes to the state of our bodies. So I could have gotten diastasis recti, I could have gotten plantar fasciitis, I could have gotten osteoarthritis, I could have gotten any number of ailments. Our modern environment, we're living basically in captivity. We don't have to forage for our own food. The whales at SeaWorld, or the orcas at SeaWorld, live in captivity, and they often develop a floppy fin, like you saw in that picture there. Our orca tank has us sitting a lot. We sit at home and at work and in the car and in the waiting room and at restaurants and at night events. We even sit when we're exercising a lot of the time. And the result of all this sitting is that our bodies are casted. It's like we're in a cast. And our muscles respond by shortening and tightening. And I was living in that cast for 3 decades. So I had 3 decades of casting to try and undo. But these guys don't. They haven't been cast yet. So until they get here, and then it really begins, right? And so that's why recess is so important. It's supremely tempting to try and imagine that recess is just for getting the wiggles out, but it's so much more important than that for whole child health and for whole life health. Every system of our bodies is affected by how much we move and the ways we move. Our circulatory system, this is amazing. Our bodies create new capillaries based on how much we move. Our nervous system receives inputs from our movements and learns and teaches itself that way. Kids are developing their skeletal system until they reach peak bone mass as a late teen. We have involuntary muscle movements that we don't even really think about, but when we expose our eyes to natural light and long distance looking, those muscles have to react in different ways than they do indoors. When we allow ourselves to get cold and wet, our involuntary muscles of our skin perform goosebumps. And that also connects to our brain. And denying our body those movements, we don't really know the effects of what that would do. When we swing, when we spin and roll and jump, that activates our vestibular systems, and that contributes to our healthy sense of balance. So how do we keep our kids out of captivity? It starts with information, of course. Then you have to prioritize what you're going to act on. And we need to realize that a lot of our captivity is socially imposed. We sit because everybody else around us is sitting, right? Kids don't live in this tank until we put it up around them. So we need to think outside the tank. That starts with getting outside the tank. If you look around you, see what is around you, that is your tank. And be the change you wish to see in the tank.
Angie, thank you very much. Fascinating. All of the speeches that we've heard over the last few weeks have been worked on. Everybody that's here, we do a dress rehearsal a week before we perform so they can be ready to go and make sure they're all well prepared for you. Our next speaker is here to talk to us tonight about a taboo topic. Please don't be too shocked, but please do welcome Carolyn Lee.
I've been told that I use the F word a lot. I'm not actually that afraid of offending people, though. In fact, I think we should use it more. I think we should teach our kids the F word. I think we should use it in our schools, in our houses of worship. Hell, put it on a billboard. Of course, I am not talking about that curse word that autocorrect tries to change to duck. Spoiler alert, it's never duck. I'm, in fact, talking about feminism. A lot of people think feminism is a dirty word. They have negative, scary, or offensive connotations with that word, when in reality, the definition is simply the pursuit of equal rights for women. In other words, feminism is the radical notion that women are people. Unfortunately, throughout history, there have been lots of incredible women who have done incredible things. I think people think feminism is sort of passé, or maybe simply unnecessary. The suffragettes got us the right to vote. Gloria Steinem and Angela Davis led the women's libers. There was Lilith Fair. Hell, Beyonce even calls herself a feminist now. However, there are still lots of places around the world where women face egregious violations based solely on their sex. Things like child marriage, female genital mutilation, sex trafficking, and even denial of basic human rights like education, healthcare, and full participation in society. I mean, we all know that women can't even drive a car in Saudi Arabia, right? So, patriarchy is clever because the battlefield for women's rights keeps shifting. A lot of society is built on systems of oppressive inequality. But the good news is, as long as there has been oppression, the oppressed have been fighting back. So even though we may think that feminism is maybe a little passé, consider the following questions. Have you ever wondered why when a boy gets drunk, it's a get out of jail free card? Oh, he was drunk, boys will be boys. When a girl gets drunk, somehow it's still a get-out-of-jail-free card for the boy. Well, she was drunk. She should have known what would happen. What about, I wonder why men look good without makeup? Could it be that society has never told them that they look bad without it? How come insurance policies cover the gamut of men's health, but women have to fight for reproductive coverage? It's almost as if male is considered the default setting for the human race. Have any of you ever felt unsafe walking home, on a bus, at school, in your own home? Many of the women in this room would know what that feels like. Have any of you ever walked into a boardroom and assumed that the woman there would make you coffee? Have any of you ever called a man who is caring for his own children a babysitter? Women, have any of you ever faked listening to something that a man was explaining to you, even though you already knew the answer, because you felt like you owed him your attention? All of these things, my friends, are the result of what's called internalized misogyny, and we are all infected with it. Every one of us. No one is immune. One time, a long time ago, a guy was apologizing to me for something really terrible that he'd done, and he said, "I'm so sorry. I should have treated you like this precious jewel that you are." And I said, "I appreciate the apology. That's very sweet, but perhaps if you had treated me instead like a human being, we wouldn't be where we are." It is really easy to think that all the stereotypes that we have in our heads about women and men are true. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Hashtag nope. We need to challenge all the assumptions that we all hold about what women and men are like, because research shows that there aren't significant differences in brain function between the sexes. The differences and the stereotypes are a result of nurture, not nature. Malala Yousafzai was 15 years old a couple of years ago when she was shot in the head for the crime of daring to go to school. Thankfully, she survived, and she became an advocate for girls' education around the world. And she said, "We cannot succeed when half of us are held back." Equality is not a done deal. Feminism is for all of us. So I hope that you'll declare proudly to anyone who will listen that this, and this, and this, and this, and this is what a feminist looks like.
Thank you, Carolyn. We learn wonderful things and hear wonderful stories from people. And I know there are a lot of people out here that probably think that you have a story to tell too. We like to think of these as stories that we're sharing with other people. Time travel, emotion, whimsy, and relationships are at the heart of our next speaker's story, who will extol to us the wonder of hats. Please welcome Dale Massell.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Okay. I collect hats. And by collecting hats, I collect memories. Many of my hats have memories and stories of their own. You can put on a hat and you can time travel back to a different time, a different era. Who remembers when Paisley was popular? Yes, I wore this Paisley hat in high school. I didn't have any girlfriends in high school. Maybe there's no connection. I respected my grandfather very much. When he passed away, I found this brown fedora hanging in his garage, and I wore this hat for many years. Every time I wore it, I would think about our fishing and hunting trips or the times we played sheep's head together. Who remembers Albert the Alley Cat? Hi. Albert was a hand puppet that did the weather on Channel 6 in Milwaukee. My cousin came out from California, from LA. At first, he couldn't understand how we could have a weather report that lasted more than 10 minutes. And then he couldn't understand how we had a puppet doing it. These are Brewers hats that spanned 40 years of the Brewers' history. I used to go to the games back when Robin Yount and Molitor and Cecil Cooper were playing. So everybody say boo. These are the villains. I lived in Denver when John Elway started with the Denver Broncos. My daughter was born in Colorado, so she is a huge Bronco fan, which causes problems occasionally. Everybody say yay. Yay. These are the heroes. The parking lot attendant's hat belonged to my father-in-law. He parked cars at this stadium somewhere to the north of us. You can travel to distant places with hats. The hat in the center I wore, it's actually from Jordan, and I wore it to Halloween once. I stopped at a self-service gas station and a car pulled up with a young woman in back and said, "Are you for real?" And I looked at her and said, "Are you?" She was dressed as an angel. These hats were all given to me by a friend of mine I met in Colorado who was an ex-bull rider. And we used to go out on the plains of Colorado and at his house and camp and watch the stars and the satellites go overhead. It's just gorgeous out there. This is a very special hat. This hat doesn't look like much, but in 1977, I wore this hat on the Alpine Valley stage for the Traveling Gong Show. I did not get gonged. There were 3 judges, Howard and Rosemary Gwinnett, each gave me a perfect score of 10. Larry the Legend gave me a score of 9 and said, "If you give me your hat, I'll give you a 10. I still have the hat. I did not give him the hat, I did not win, but I did go on to win the Performing Arts Center Gong Show shortly right after that. In 5th grade, I was in a play, and I played a baker. I had an uncle who was a chef, and he gave me his hat to wear, and I still have that hat from 5th grade. Now this hat belonged to a very good friend of mine. His name is Bill Shaw. He lived in Chicago, or near Chicago, and in the 70s he actually drove cab in downtown Chicago. And he told me a time about driving past a certain club where there was a bouncer out front. And the bouncer had started wearing what he called a Mandinka haircut and large gold chains and started calling himself Mr. T. And he would see him every night that he drove cab. Bill and I were in a duo playing out in Colorado, playing out west. Everybody say boo. These are winter hats. Had enough of that. The hat on your right was my father's hat. And I put that hat on every time I go out to shovel snow and hope some of his energy stays with me. Everybody say yay. Yay. Summer hats. And it's coming. It's coming real fast. The flowers are coming with it. The hat in the center is actually from Hawaii, and it's made out of tree bark. These are casual hats. These are the hats that I wear every day around town. There's one hat up there in particular that I got a lot of compliments on, and people just always wanted to stop and ask me about the Sherlock Holmes hat. These are ultra-casual hats. You wear these when you just don't care what anybody thinks. And this hat does not yet have a story. It's very new. And I wear it when I play with our band, Rings up in the Fox Valley. But that is another story.
Thank you, Dale. Our next speaker likes to travel off the beaten path, and her destinations are chosen by intuition. That's how she ended up on the isolated Greek island of Skyros, where she learned of a rare breed of horse with a special history. Please welcome Jill Bratz.
In 2011 and in 2016, I traveled to the Greek island of Skyros to volunteer on a horse farm that rescues and breeds a very rare type of horse called the Styrian horse. The Styrian horse is an ancient breed of horse. It had a special relationship with the local farmers. For centuries, they lived in the mountains half the year. It was during the wet season when food and water was plenty. The horses lived in herds, wandering freely, eating food that grew and drinking from streams. But with the onset of the dry season, the horses would leave the mountains in search of food and water. And the farmers were always there to meet them. And they would catch them and bring them back to their farms to work on the threshing floor. It was a symbiotic relationship in which both needed each other in order to survive. But with the invention of modern farm technology, the farmers no longer needed the horses, and they were subsequently left on the mountains all year round. Well, the horses need the humans in order to survive, and they began to starve, like Millie here, who was found in the mountains nearly dying of starvation. She was rescued and brought to the farm, where she's now doing much better. Because nowadays, the Styrian horses live mainly in captivity, and this is for several reasons. Because by the 1960s, their numbers had dropped down to probably around 50, and some people began to take notice. Nowadays, there are some breeding programs in place, and there are over 200 Styrian horses. The breeding programs also aim to preserve the purity of the breed. And there are local programs that work with the children. This helps them to connect with their culture and also to educate them on how to take care of horses. Because there's a dream that one day the Styrian horses can live in the wild once again. But there are several major obstacles standing in the way right now. One of them is the constant need for food. Because with this unique relationship, the Styrian horse has always and will always need humans to feed them and to take care of them through the dry season. And so there would need to be cooperation among the locals. Skyros is also home to thousands and thousands of sheep and goats that roam freely on the island. There's a long history of shepherding, and with the European Union's money coming in, this has increased dramatically, and they eat up all the food available. And there are also donkeys that roam free, and they of course create mules, which interrupts the breeding process. And the mules also fight with the stallions and prevent them from breeding. Historically, the Styrian horse lived in the southern part of the island in an area called the Vuno, which means mountain. It is a special protected area, protected by law. But for 10 years, the Styrian people have been fighting a proposal to build one of the world's largest wind farms that would completely cover the Vuno. This is obviously a huge concern for many different reasons. The Vuno is a place of spirituality for the locals. Dating back thousands of years, you can find ancient chapels. And it's also a place of beauty that brings in tourism to an island that is very poor. Also, the Vuno is home to other unique species, such as the Eleanor's falcon. It's a very rare type of falcon, and Skyros is the largest breeding colony in the world. And so there's concern that this wind farm could disrupt that. The Styrian horse itself is very unique in the world. Genetic tests have shown that there are no living horses related to it. And so it's just a very special type of horse. And it deserves our appreciation and attention.
Is our destiny primarily influenced by chance or by choice? Our next speaker will explain how the choices we make in life ultimately affect whom we become. Please welcome Jose Gonzalez.
Thanks, Charlie. Destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. I grew up in a small city along the Rio Grande, and growing up as a kid, my life seemed a little unorthodox. This allowed me to view life through two different types of perspectives. You see, I was a good kid. I was a smart kid. I was an innocent kid. In middle school, I was smart enough to get myself elected into the honors program. But even though I was fortunate to go to school with the gifted and talented, I would be forced to go back home with the not so good kids. This gave me a sense of both street smarts, book smarts, and a lot of bad influences. You see, I grew up in a low-income neighborhood where a kid's only association to success is defined by the neighborhood drug dealer, where crime and violence are part of everyday life, where drive-bys are common, and gangs just seem to be part of the neighborhood culture. By the time I got into high school, things got worse for me. Not only did I get kicked out of the honors program, but I was expelled from high school 3 times. I knew I had to straighten out my act. I knew I had to make a decision. I had to make a choice. So I decided I would remove myself from that environment. So I left home and I moved to the beautiful city of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, where in 2006 I graduated as Sheboygan North Raider. This was a huge accomplishment for me. It was a huge accomplishment for me because out of the 7 kids I grew up with, I was the one that made it. You see, 3 of those kids got murdered. 3 of those kids are behind bars, and one of them never overcame his drug addiction. After high school, I started working as a construction worker. But after 2 years of very hard labor, I decided it was enough to convince me to go back and pursue an education. I was granted financial aid, but none of the schools around the area offered a degree in the path I was pursuing. I had been away from home and from my family for 4 years now, and it just so happens that the college back home did offer a path. So I made a choice and I moved back home, but as fate would have it, those bad influences were still there. My mother was thrilled and excited at the idea that her only son was going to make something of himself. That very same year I started college, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. The following year, she passed away. I was broken. I was devastated. I was lost. And the worst part was I was incarcerated when she died. And this broke my heart because I wasn't able to hold my mother in my arms and let her know how much I loved her. I wasn't able to look my mother in her eyes and let her know what a wonderful mother she had been to my sisters and I. I lost faith in God that day. But after 3 months of pain and grief and many failed attempts of trying to make sense of everything, I was able to regain my faith. I came to the realization that if I ever wanted to see my mother again, I would have to believe in the promises made to us by the good Lord himself. I would have to find a way to get into heaven. In 2013, I graduated with an associate's degree in applied science. You see, when I got released out of prison, I decided I would go back and I would finish where my mother and I had started. You see, what I discovered through all the trials, turmoils, and tribulations was that there's 2 types of people in this world. There are those people who are mentally confined and imprisoned by their past. And I refer to these people as, that's just the way I am type of people. And then there are those who understand that destiny is not a matter of chance. It is a matter of choice. And I refer to these people as, I am who I choose to become type of people. You see, it is not who you are that holds you back. It's who you think you are not. Jim Brown said, every difficulty is growing you up. Every difficulty is an opportunity to prepare you, to increase you, and to develop you. Every difficulty is a chance to develop character, develop new strength, and new confidence. Therefore, life does not happen to you. It happens for you. You see, ladies and gentlemen, life isn't easy. And I'm not saying it was meant to be. But I will go on and I would dare to say that we all have the power to overcome our obstacles. Just know who you are and what you stand for, and fight for those who stand with you.
Thank you, Jose. You're all set. Who doesn't love their papa? Our next speaker will share some memories and what she misses most about her dad in this storytelling tribute. This is part of her grieving process to share stories about her father. Please welcome Chris Poole.
Ready? Go. You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille. 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. This was the last song I sang karaoke to with my father. Unfortunately, that was also the first song. He sang it 5 different times. He pulled different people up on stage every time. He had a few drinks that day. So it's very appropriate that I'm sharing that story here in the bar. My dad passed away last February, but he was born in 1936. He was the second oldest of 9 children, grew up on a small farm in Roselville outside of Marshfield. Happy child, I don't think he knew what he was missing. I do believe that I inherited my dimples from him. What do you think? I still have them. He did not want to be a farmer. He decided to get off of the farm as soon as he could. When he turned 18, he joined the Army, served in Okinawa, and was actually able to get out of the Army after 2 years. While he was there, he took lots of pictures as I was going through the slides. Betty, Veronica, Sally. I'm like, oh, wait, you had mom at home. Why are you checking out all these other women? But he was a dapper, handsome young man, so obviously he thought he could catch the other women's eyes too. But he stayed true to my mother, and in 1960 they got married. He had a wonderful fashion sense, even way back then. As you can see, the white socks with the black pants. But he always had to have his fun, regardless of what was going on or how we dressed him, if we didn't allow him to dress himself. But he liked to have fun. He liked to boogie down, and of course, have a little drink along the way. You'll notice in a lot of the pictures he wears hats. He and Dale would have gotten along quite well. Growing up, I was the youngest of 5 children. I was an accident. My next oldest siblings, they were 5 to 10 years older than I was, which meant that the 4 of them got to go off on their own, and I got dragged everywhere. Reunions, weddings, funerals, vacations, and every historical marker sign along the way. But it was fun. Dad taught me softball growing up. He taught me how to fish. Eventually I learned to drive, and he really liked that because I eventually became his designated driver. And soon we started to take bigger trips. We would go to Las Vegas, baby. And it was always nice because for some reason he always treated my airfare and the meals and all that fun stuff, and I just had to show him how to get around and how to gamble. So the one day I had the opportunity to take Dad, because he loved football, let him meet Donald Driver. The handsome guy on that side is my husband, Troy. The curly-haired gentleman on that side is Troy's uncle, my dad and Donald. As I mentioned before, baseball hats. Dad liked to wear his hats. A couple of reasons. He was follically challenged, so I think he was trying to protect it from being burned. But also, the hats give him a little bit of height because he was also vertically challenged. So he had to, use every strength that he could to help him with that. But he was always a good sport. Whatever baseball hat was available in the summertime, it was available that he would wear. Pirate hat, why not? Just, here, Dad, put this on. Okay. Or even at Christmas time, with some of the little children around, we would make him wear the headband with the little Santa antennas on it. He was a good sport. See, you could really see the bald spot, the shininess up on there. In the wintertime, however, he had a little black hat that he wore Monday through Saturday, and on Sundays he wore a blue hat. The black hat, we always talked about when he passed away, he would be cremated with this hat. Until a few years ago, it was decided no. We would actually put the hat on top of the urn so he would continue to stay warm, and that's what we did do. I had a tradition that every time I left the house, I would kiss his bald spot goodbye for luck. And if I started to leave the house and I had not given him a kiss, I would get, "Christine Rose, get back here!" And I would have to go back in. He would lower his head, and I'd give him a little kiss goodbye. It was one of our signs of love and affection, giving him that kiss on the bald head. And yes, since he's passed away, I have gone up to 2 strangers, and I said, can I please just kiss your head? But I love him very much. I miss him very much every day. So this is my last send-off. One final kiss, going up to heaven. And one more chorus. You fit to find time to leave me, Lucille. 4 hungry children and a crop in the field. Okay, that's enough.
While they're getting the last slide set up, we'd like to thank you for being here. Again, we'd like to thank the Three Sheeps Brewing Company for hosting us. Thank you so much. I will have the sign-up sheet right up here when you're done if you'd like to talk to us, if you have any interest whatsoever in being a part of this. But thank you all for being here. This is a wonderful tradition. This is our 4th time. They are open until 10 p.m. So no hurry. They've got lots to serve you with. They have great beers too. Thanks, James. Our next speaker has been telling stories for a very long time, or as she told me, a very, very long time. From her days as a pre-K teacher to starting the Great Lakes Storytellers until now. Tonight's story started 45 years ago and thousands of miles away, only to end a few miles from right here in Sheboygan. Please welcome Mary Kozan.
Everybody has a name, but sometimes that name is all we have left to honor someone, to remember someone. And that's what my story is about. I grew up in the 50s and 60s, and as many of us post-baby boomers, when I got to college, I started getting active in politics, government, social issues. There were anti-war protests going on all around the country, including at my school. But there were a lot of those anti-war protests turned out to be anti-soldier protests, and I was not comfortable blaming the GIs for the decisions of the war. So when I heard about a group that was raising the awareness for POWs, prisoners of war, and those missing in action, I knew I could support that group. I sent in my money and I got a package with lots of literature and a small metal band with the name of a soldier who had been missing for over 3 years. Colonel Norman Eaton was his name. Now the deal was, when you got that bracelet and you put it on, they wanted you to keep it on and not take it off until the war was over and all the prisoners had been returned. So I did. Even there. Aren't they cute? The picture The bracelet is there even though you can't see it. At this time, the war had been raging on for a couple of years, and it was another year yet before a peace agreement was signed and arrangements were made to return the troops, the prisoners. Newspapers all across the country were publishing lists of known prisoners and a date when they would be returned. And every time those lists were published, I would look for Colonel Norman Eaton. And every time, his name was not on the list. When that last list was published, I had a decision to make, what to do with the bracelet. I finally took it off and put it in my jewelry box, but I had the feeling that the story wasn't over yet. The piece that we had, or rather, there was a website when the internet was born. There was a website that I was able to go to and learn a little bit more about Colonel Eaton. I found out that he had been a pilot and that his plane had been shot down over Laos. In 2001, I got a job working with English language learners in Sheboygan schools. My students were mostly Hmong children whose families had come here to escape the aftermath of the war. And I learned so much about the sacrifices they made, the culture, their history, and the role that their parents and grandparents had played in what we now call the secret war. They sacrificed so much for us. And now they were working hard to learn a new language and a new culture while keeping their old culture and language alive. To that end, the Hmong Association started to make plans to build a war memorial to honor the Hmong, Laotian, and Americans who fought in that secret war. They broke ground at DeLand Park in September 2005. 9 months later, it was a very hot July night, and Frank and I were walking along the lakeshore looking for that cooler near the lake breeze. We happened to have crossed the memorial and realized that it was the night before the dedication. It was open, so we went to look. Outside, there are beautiful, colorful panels that tell the history of that region of Southeast Asia. And inside, like the wall in Vietnam, there are panels with names after names after names of those who gave sacrificed their lives for the United States. As I walked through the interior of that memorial, I found a panel with the names of American soldiers. And there it was. His name had never appeared in any newspaper all those years ago. But there it was, etched in concrete on a granite slab that will probably be here for centuries. I go back to that website every once in a while, and the last time I was there, I learned that Colonel Eaton's remains had been found and identified and returned to the United States to be buried at Arlington. They were buried in July 2006, almost the exact same day as that memorial was dedicated here in Sheboygan. I promised to honor his name and his memory by telling his story. And I will take my bracelet and pass it on to my children. I hope one day it will become a treasured heirloom. Not valuable, of course, but priceless.
Ladies and gentlemen, the people that you heard speak tonight had some beautiful stories to tell. And can I ask all of them to stand up, please, so we can give them a beautiful round of applause? Very nice. Thank you. Thank you. Some people would say it's very difficult to get up here in front of a group of people and speak from your heart. Some people would also say it's easy. And it's easy when you've got a group like you who are sitting there listening very attentively and enjoying all these stories. So thank you for being here. Thank you for helping to support Ignite. Thank you for drinking beer. And have a great evening. We'll see you on June 12th. Thank you. Check us out on Facebook.